Welcome.
Yes. Well, thank you very much, and thank you for your patience in listening to my English. I hope it will be clear for you, and but please, any questions that you have as we go through this talk, if it's anything related to understanding any of the words, then obviously we have some great expertise in the headsets, so please do use that. Otherwise, put your hand up, give me a question, and I'll explain. But first of all, thank you very much for welcoming me here in Mexico. This is my first time here in Mexico City, in fact in Mexico, really. Everyone's been very, very friendly and supportive, especially the Kineo team that I've been working with for some time. So let me give me a little bit of introduction to me and why I'm, hopefully it's useful for you to listen to me today. I've been working in learning and development for a very long time, and learning technology for a very long time. So since the 1990s. So the technology has changed a lot. I mean, everyone here in the room takes things for granted that we didn't really have access to back in the 1990s. But what's interesting is while the technology is moving ever faster, our ability to understand how people learn and help people develop and acquire and build new skills is still difficult. I think everyone here in the room has that challenge every day in your organization, that we have all of these amazing technologies that we talk about together. But in reality, how do we move people at scale from one set of skills that may be suitable? Are they capable and competent enough? Are they safe? Are they compliant? Through to the new skills that they need to be successful in their job and to deliver value for you and your organizations. It's a big challenge. So I'm going to talk to you about some ways in which we can build skills capability at scale. And technology plays a part, but there's a big role to be played for all of us as learning and development professionals to convince our leadership inside organizations to ensure that our learning and development activity doesn't get eaten and shrunk and made difficult because it's just perceived as a cost, through to something that really adds tremendous value. Is that better? Can everyone hear me now? Is that better? Yes. I'm sorry. Hopefully you understood what I was saying before. Okay, this slide is just to give you a sense of what we're probably all feeling, which is there's a lot of change, there's a lot of things going on in the world as a whole. Technology is playing a very strong part in that, and it's affecting our world in learning and development and how we deliver value to our businesses. If we don't get it right, if we can't accommodate and work with this change, then it's going to result in difficulty for learning and development teams. We won't find a successful role to deliver value. Now, sorry, wrong way. The clicker is upside down for me. Okay, so eating L&D is being challenged by a significant change in technology right now. We're going to hear more about artificial intelligence in the day. I'm sure you're experimenting, if not using it actively in your organizations as you can. But there's a real challenge to just doing the same things cheaper, faster, because there's a risk that you're doing the wrong things for the wrong people at the wrong time, in the wrong ways. It's just this acronym here in English means garbage in and garbage out. I don't know if you know this phrase, but it essentially means if we're not thinking carefully about the intention and the design of what we're offering our people, it won't achieve the outcomes that we're all looking for in our organizations. You'll still, even with all the technology and the AI in the world, you'll still end up with more garbage. It's just cheap and fast. So what we want to do today is have a different approach to this. Now, having said all of that, there's a lot of impact of AI. The landscape is changing. And this is moving so quickly that this slide, even though I updated it 2 days ago, is probably out of date already because things are moving so fast. But there are some trends that I think are worth pointing out because they impact us in the workplace as much as they do the wider world. So not least our ability to create virtual people, virtual media, virtually, instantly. That's the world we're in. So when we're looking to produce content to support our learning and development, it's going to be very easy to do. But will it be the right content with the right design thinking around it that will deliver the value that we're looking for? So it'll be very easy to do, but it puts more pressure and emphasis on thinking at a high level about the design that you're putting and the experience that you're offering your people in the organization. So for example, we can have virtual AI influencers. They're out there already. They're 100% made up and run by AI and generating value for brands. The idea of a digital twin, having, say, a virtual me standing and talking to you instead of the real me, is entirely virtual, entirely possible, so that I could be doing this talk at scale simultaneously to all of our Totara customers in the world. We also can have technology that will be a co-pilot and a guide to all of the activities that we're doing. So performance support is now much more effective than perhaps it's been in the past, and it'll be much more part of the everyday experiential work, learning in the flow of work experience that I'm sure you're already looking to implement. But that's becoming easier. But all of this impact and results in job roles changing dramatically, and you as organization experts and L&D teams within your HR environment are probably struggling to keep up with defining what those job roles are, what the skills are that these people need, and by the time you are getting close, it changes again. So how do we get to this place where we can actually deliver value to our organizations at the pace that we need to for us to survive in what is a very competitive world that is changing whole sectors quite dramatically. So this idea of reskilling cycles accelerating is the core challenge that we need to be able to achieve. When I say reskilling, that means looking carefully at the knowledge, the actions, the behaviors that you want to see in people, and being able to respond to the changing circumstances, environments that they're in. So to understand more about the exponential rapid change in the world, things are getting faster and faster. There's a very good book. It is available in Spanish, written by Azim Azhar. He is in the UK, but he's a strong and very knowledgeable commentator on the wider world of what is happening to us all across society, to our governments, to the world of work, down to individual sectors, and the impact of fundamental technologies on everything that we do. So we live in very exciting times, very challenging times, but we need the right skills and capabilities in our people to be adaptable and resilient and capable to respond positively to these changes. I'd recommend this book to you because it will give you that wider context as to understanding what's going on, and it will help you make better decisions within your area. I need to learn how to press the right button on this clicker. Okay, at the end of the day, in one respect, what we're all trying to do is empower people to do their best work. And what does that mean? It means lots of things. It means being flexible, being adaptable, giving people the space, the time, the autonomy to respond to the local changes that they're facing and seeing. Being overly prescriptive and directive is important. Well, not overly directive is a big facet and characteristic of organizations today, but the organizations of tomorrow are ones that are much more adaptable and flexible. And we need structures that enable us to do that, and we need skills across all of our people that will achieve that more effectively. So how do we get closer to this? And how do we get to an experience, a workplace experience, that looks more like this little cycle here? So you see these little green, blue dots? I wonder if in your own organizations you could say that your people could feel confident and say yes, that they are experiencing things in this way. And if they're not, then there's a break in the cycle. And it means that there's going to be a big blocker in their ability to take on new skills, achieve what they need to do in their role and their job. So, can you say that your people have access to the right resources to do their job? And that means the right tools. Do they know how to use those tools? Do they know how to find the right people to talk to? And can they reach them? Is the information that they're accessing accurate? I'd imagine. Can anyone put their hand up and say that yes, that's true in their organization? Yeah, it's unusual. Oh, one. We have one. That's impressive. Well done. But this is a big problem. It's something we do need to tackle. Same with feedback. When I'm doing my work, how do I get feedback at the right time for me to be able to respond and change track? Who gives me that feedback? Is it the right level? Often that's missing. Are we clear about the goals and the objectives that each individual is operating to, both as an individual, as a team, and within the organization as a whole? Often there's not clarity around this. But that really should be driving pretty much all of your learning and development and performance support requirements and needs. So a close attachment to that is crucial. And as a result of that, that will help you identify the gaps, the skill gaps, to be able to optimize performance for individuals. And that's what will help you define the right programs of learning and support that you need to be able to roll out. All of this is hugely influenced by your managers, your team leaders, your managers, because if they're not supporting you, they're sort of blocking you. Maybe not literally, but by their behavior and their approach. If you're not supporting them in there to help them deliver the support to their people, then again, it breaks this cycle. And you won't end up with a cohesive team, a high-performing team of people delivering real value and being able to make the right decisions at the right time in the right context, because that's how we'll get to be staying competitive, productive, and performing at the right levels in our organizations going forward. So I appreciate this is feels like an impossible dream, right? To sort of get to this place. But I don't think it is impossible. I think we're much closer to being able to deliver this sort of value to our people with the technology and with the expertise and support that's available to us. Still the wrong way. Okay, maybe I'll learn this by the end of this talk. Seeing learning in action. Okay, now, so that's where we're trying to head to, but this is sort of describing perhaps what we want to avoid. We want to avoid this situation where learning and development is subject to where is the return on investment? When you're offering this learning, do we have the right data, the right metrics in place? Is it the right things we're doing? And often there's a disconnect between leadership understanding what the programs of learning is that we're delivering. And if we don't have a good answer for this, it's often a sign that there's a misalignment. And it results to things like your budget's getting cut, things get tighter, things get more difficult, as opposed to seeing yourselves as a real competitive support to the building out of the organization. So if you're delivering solutions which are one size fits all, so that's not really going to work, because one size fits no one. We live now in a time where our learning and development really needs to be personalized to the individual requirement and need. It's always been it's always been the case, but now it's much more possible to do that at scale and in a cost-effective fashion. Now, compliance is critical to everything that we do. In many respects, that's the sort of bedrock of what we do as L&D people in delivering and managing and helping minimize business risk in whatever sector that you're in. So we need to be able to do that effectively and not just shift responsibility to the individual, but actually change behaviors so that compliance is fully experienced and acted upon across the organization. That's how you genuinely reduce risk. So we want to move away from that world to one where we're in a much more positive, virtuous cycle here. This is where we as learning professionals are very clear about the range of learning activities that we can bring to solving problems. We are very clear about what the business problems are. So not the L&D or training problems that the business may come to you and just ask for, but you're able to interrogate and ask and be clear about what the business outcomes are that people are trying to achieve, because that could radically change the shape of the learning experiences that you're designing and the mix of tools that you use. It helps you move from being perceived or being looked at as a cost center and instead become a business driver for positive change. And that's really where we want to be if we want to have genuine impact in our organizations. That means we need to have mechanisms for providing that immediate feedback, that managers get that feedback, they can act on that feedback and support their people in their teams. And that will lead to measurable results for the learning that you're delivering because it translates into business performance. That gives you rising credibility. That gives you more access to more opportunities in the future. It becomes a virtuous cycle as opposed to the vicious cycle that I showed you before. Okay, so in terms of having a framework, I've painted hopefully a picture. Has that been, in terms of your own experiences in your organizations, do you feel that you're in the downward vicious cycle, or do you feel that you're in the virtuous cycle? So who feels like they're sort of moving down? Just a few of you. Well, it's a safe space.
Kind of a mix.
A mix, yeah. Some places will be more represented or more aligned than other areas, so I understand that would be the case, yeah. No, that's good. So let me walk you through a maturity model that we've at Totra have devised that helps you plot and place yourself as an organization on the level of maturity that you perhaps are in. So it'll help you create a pathway to getting to high levels of improvement. So if you see this as a pyramid with a base foundation of compliance centric at the base, moving all the way up to being perceived as that transformative service to your wider organization, that the way in which people are being managed and supported is seen as a competitive advantage for the organization. So let me step you through some of those elements. Okay, so we'll all be at this level for sure, compliance level. We have to do these things and we'll be doing them to different levels of effectiveness. But essentially, we need to be our learning activity is driven by regulatory requirements, and that training is mandatory. It may be ad hoc, and it's probably reactive to situations. And that's very common across the world. I see that right across the world in terms of people's base level activity. And some people, that's all they're doing in their organizations, which is sort of a bare minimum. And the sort of metrics they're looking at is how much training is being completed, looking at compliance incidence rates, compliance audit scores, and trying to get close to, is the training having impact in that? But it's often very difficult to sort of to determine that. But this is an important foundation for everything that we do. Moving from the next stage, then having a more structured learning management set of activities is where I think probably a good number of organizations are. I think all Totra sort of customers by definition are in this sort of level. They have learning processes are established, they're documented. Training is more organized, it's more consistent. Training can be delivered at scale, and it meets large defined audiences and differentiated audiences across their organization. And you need mechanisms to be able to support that, both methods but also technologies to achieve that. Still not that. Then the next level up is being more learner-centric. So we're much more mindful about the learning experience that we're offering. It is more personalized, as we already raised. That you're able to capture what the individual needs are and the preferences of those learners and deliver a much more timely and effective intervention or support mechanism for them to deliver value. So more engagement, there's more accessibility as well, and that's a key thing as well. People have different requirements in terms of how their media is consumed. So, achievement focused is the next level up. So learning impact is evident on an individual's ability to do their job better. So we've done the work to understand where someone is in terms of the levels of competency and capability, and we can see whether there is a gap. And we can then devise a learning path towards achieving and closing that gap. So that way, there's also an alignment between the individual need, but also the organizational need. So this is why it's very important to be clear about what the organizational objectives are and aligning that down to the team and down to the individual and how they're, the activities that they're doing. And the metrics, there's a different level of metrics that we need to be able to collate and act upon. What is the pace? Is there a way in which we can measure the pace of improvement? How do we define that sort of scale of capability? And how do we capture that data and then use that to inform the resources and learning courses and activities that people have access to? The time to proficiency, how quickly is that? How quickly are people moving through this? Are there blockers to that? There may be blockers elsewhere in the organization that you need to address to unlock it. So there's a good range of metrics there that need to be in place. And then if we can get to that top level by achieving all of these other four elements, then we can get to be classed as transformative. So learning is now fully integrated into the organization's culture and strategy. So it's perceived as an optimizing mechanism to stay competitive and to stay innovative and be innovative in their chosen market. It's delivering clear ROI. As a result, your retention is likely to be more optimal, and you're proactive about the skills needs. You're not being just reactive, you're being proactive to meeting those and improving productivity. That's how you get ahead of your competition. So again, we need better metrics about what that means, and learning culture type index, that'll be a bringing together of various data sources and being really clear about the business impact that these activities are doing. So this sort of 5-step structure just gives you a framework in which to look at what you're doing in your organizations and try and plot and being honest and transparent with yourselves around where you feel you are, so that can help you develop clearer action plans as to what to do to make those improvements. There's a whole range of things here. I won't dwell on these now in detail, but essentially this will help you enhance your impact. It will draw you more towards designing more holistic learning experiences. That means a whole wide range of learning activities, not just courses. You'll be focused on effectiveness, workforce effectiveness. That will shape the learning experiences that you're delivering. And you'll be very mindful about employee retention, because that's a key metric in terms of how close people feel to that optimal unified experience that I showed you with the blue dots earlier. If you're close to that, then you're going to be in a very strong place. Okay. Another complicated slide, so apologies for that, but there's quite a bit of information in here, so this is a good one. Whenever I put this up on the screen, everyone takes pictures of. It's a good one to do. Reason being is this tries to summarize the shape of a more adaptable organizational structure that is skills-oriented. And essentially, by shaping the organization in this way, you'll have more fluid structures. You'll be focusing more on the skills and the shape of skills that people need, not just the job definitions that perhaps you may have in place right now. And you will be working towards that more unified talent experience. And as a result of that, you'll have a much more integrated technology infrastructure aligned to deliver those things. But there's quite a bit in this diagram here. But essentially answering these questions of how is work organized, who does the work, and how are decisions made are quite critical questions that you might think you know the answer to, but you need to scratch under the surface and really understand who's involved in each of these stages, because that will help you deliver much more impact in terms of the solutions that you're deriving and delivering. And this diagram also talks to the nature of work being changing. Full-time, long-standing careers in one job are shrinking away. Traditional work is being challenged on a weekly basis. It's being fractionalized. Lots of change in this area. And how do we adapt and how do we focus on delivering that? So developing this idea of a skills hub with a philosophy around what skills and talent is, how you govern what those skills are, and then how you collect and make meaning out of the data that you have is really critical to delivering that going forward. All of that the good news is that technology can really assist you here, and increasingly with smart sort of AI support. So if you achieve all of that, then you'll be able to place talent more effectively. That means you'll know more about your people. You'll know where they are now, but whether they have the right skills and mix to move into other roles in your organization. So that talent mobility is really an important sort of criteria and indicator of an effective organization. You're retaining high performers, you're able to anticipate change, you've got that positive work experience in place, and you're able to grow and develop. And crucially, you're going to be able to innovate faster as a result. Okay, so I've said all of this. Really, what we're trying to do at Totra is respond to that world, these trends that are going out there, and to deliver a technology platform that essentially makes it easier to achieve some really hard things. So you need to talk more with each of your colleagues across HR. There may be barriers to that. There may be some silos in place, but to achieve all of these things, we need better communication and collaboration as a result. And with the right types of technology and the right methodologies and support that you get from the partners that you work with, particularly Kenio, then you can work towards delivering that outcome, and you will result in a much more personalized experience. You will be able to adapt to changing needs, and you will be able to continually align people to goals and outcomes. So Totra itself as a platform brings the three key elements together: learning and engagement and performance. I won't go into lots of detail here. The Kenio team know lots about it, and we'll be able to take you through that in more detail. But rest assured, a lot of you are using Totra already. Actually, can I ask, put your hand up if you're using Totra now? So you're using the Totra platform to deliver your learning right now? Okay, so that's great. Thank you. That's fantastic that you're using it. For those who aren't currently, it'd be great for you to talk to others about what they're doing. But you're not alone. This is just a selection of organizations around the world that are using Totra. The Kenio team have a good number of customers around the world as well, and can draw on that experience and all of that activity that they're working towards delivering that flexible, adaptive learning and development methodology that I've been describing. I will, after this day, I will work with the Kenio team to offer you a toolkit. This toolkit is called the Learning with Impact Toolkit. We'll make it available in Spanish. It's available in English now, so if you're interested, we can send it through. I'm sure there's a few buttons you can push on your computer and you can automatically translate it as well. Apologies to the listening. But it gives you an action plan as to how to better deliver learning and performance outcomes. So if you're interested in that, then let the Kineo team know, or let me know, and we can get that to you. But essentially, it will give you a nice systematic way to ask those questions internally of yourselves in conjunction with that maturity model that I showed you earlier. Okay. Thank you very much for your attention. Muchas gracias. And if you have questions, let me know. Thank you very much.